Welcome to the 7 core life purposes and the 7 main chakras. All right, you could tell that among my gifts and tools, Photoshop is not one of them. So sorry for this bad graphic that I actually made a couple of years ago. And it's so hilarious that I dug it up and it was perfect for this title. This is going to be a little bit of a review of what is in my book, The 7 Core Life Purposes, in case you have not read that in a while, or in case you haven't really read the part where I talk about how the 7 core life purposes so beautifully correlate with the 7 main chakras. So I'm going to go over that, and I'm going to be adding a bit more to the discussion because honestly, it's endlessly fascinating the way that it really ripples out into much of life as we know it. So you could tell I love color and color coding things. And one reason is because I actually see letters and musical notes and numbers in color. That's called synesthesia. And I wonder if any of you highly gifted folks have the same thing. It is an important memory tool for me. And so I felt that I had to come up with a color system for the 7 purposes. And so when I got home from that plane ride, where I got the divine download about the 7 purposes, I started to write it out in the book. And with the realization that the empowerer is the hub of all the purposes, I realized that it was like the solar plexus chakra. And then it was just like freaking fireworks went off in my head. Like lightning hit me, and I was like, I cannot believe they all correspond perfectly with the 7 chakras. So of course, I took the colors for each of the purposes from the colors of the chakras. And again, I don't want to be sounding cheesy, but I want to thank God. I want to thank my guides always for this immensely useful and fascinating divine download of the 7 core life purposes and of the correlation with the chakras. So let's have a closer look at how they correlate with each chakra. So this is right from my book, and I'll start with the empowerer. All right, the empowerer is corresponding with the solar plexus chakra. I put navel on this picture just so you can kind of know where it's supposed to be located. It's probably a little bit above this model's belly button, but the empowerer is usually just above around the navel. It is the hub. It is your body's physical and your and energetic center. Okay, it is the source of your power, and the solar plexus is responsible for your sense or your lack of clarity, your sense of inner wisdom. Where do you get that gut feeling from? Okay, from your gut, from your solar plexus. If you feel a lot of tension or just a lot of activity in your solar plexus, it could be a sign that it's being activated. It could be a sign it's unbalanced. It's definitely something that you want to pay attention to and look into a little bit, explore a little bit, okay? The solar plexus, I love that it is called the solar plexus because to me it is like the sun radiating out, as does the empowerer. Okay, the empowerer radiates out into every core life purpose. Isn't this perfect, you guys? And we're only on the first one, right? The empowerer radiates out into all the life purposes, into every core life purpose, okay? It is, like I said in the book, it is the hub of all the purposes, and it creates space for our evolution. So I'm going to, go over in this description what each of these life purposes, what each life purpose practitioner creates, right? The empowerer creates space, okay, for our evolution, for the rest of us, for our evolution. And when we feel calm, when we feel centered, okay, when we own our stories, we empower others to do so too. All right, so a little bit about the empower. Now we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. So the teacher is the root. All right, the root chakra represents And it literally is located at the very base of your spine. Like if you follow your spine all the way down, to what you're sitting on right now, that is your root chakra, is where your root chakra is located there, even a little bit forward of your spine. All right, so it is just the bottom of your torso, right? It is representing our basic needs, okay, our earliest development. Remember, our spine is like basically the first physical thing that develops, I think, besides the heart, that develops in an embryo, right? And, in terms of evolutionary development, we are still asleep, all right? If we're really if we're really just practicing as a teacher, okay, the teacher is still asleep to their potential. But as I talk about in the book, all right, they are still serving others in a no less critical role than all the rest of the purposes, okay? The root represents, like I said, our earliest development. So the teacher is childlike. The teacher is often ruled by ego. I mean, it's not like they're running around acting like a kid, but like as far as their emotional development, as far as the way they treat others, maybe it's just they're not as socially evolved, maybe, as some of the rest of us. Now, keep in mind, we all cycle through being teachers. Okay, I'm sitting here as, I claim different purposes, but I know that I was a teacher to someone last week. I could tell you a specific instance. I was absolutely a teacher. I absolutely regressed in my social functioning, and anyways, we all do that. Okay, so later on, I'm going to explain a little bit about evolution and ascension. But the teacher is a powerful karmic mirror to guide our path, okay, and to trigger our healing, which triggers our development, triggers our growth. Okay, so the teacher, when we embrace the trials of relating to others, and we learn to ground ourselves from the root. Okay, so that's the other thing. And you'll hear that, in my meditations, my guided meditations. I want you to get grounded. Very important. Okay. When we ground ourselves from the root and when we recognize and change our trigger patterns, that helps us practice other purposes. So thank you, teachers. Thank you, root chakra, without neither of which we would not be grounded. Okay. We would not have a fundamental root system. We would not have a place to grow from. Remember too that the teacher is the foil, okay, is the yang to all of the rest of the purposes. I know that seems unbalanced, but it's like you only need one instance of not being on purpose. Think about it. Okay, so the yin and the yang, up, down, light, dark. I've been talking about this since the beginning of the course. You cannot have one without the other. It's called duality. In order for duality to exist, there has to be a yes and a no. There has to be on purpose and not on purpose. Okay, well, there are, several ways, 6 beautiful ways to be on your core purpose. There only needs to be one way to be off your purpose, okay? We don't need a whole bunch of people running around with 6 different ways to be off your purpose. That would be so confusing and crazy, right? So hope that all of that is making sense. Okay, the parent. A bunch of people are parents. A bunch of people have kids, but as you know, as I talked about earlier, you don't even have to have kids to be a parent. The parent is the nurturer. Okay, so obviously where does the creator of life, the nurturer of life, the enabler of new purpose-driven people, where does that live? Of course, in the sacral chakra, which is the seat of our creativity, our fertility, our abundance. Okay, so the parent is nestled here in that sacral area where life or its seeds are nurtured, obviously depending on your physical gender. All right, and when we focus on, there's a little tip, when we focus on breathing into our sacral chakra, okay, you can focus on breathing into any of your chakras, but when we focus on breathing into our sacral chakra, we tap into our divine life force, and we become one with source. You're able to reach feeling that state, let's say in meditation, if you can focus on breathing into your sacral chakra, okay? And that's one reason why in my at least one of my meditations, I ask you to breathe into your pelvic area. Not in any sexual sense, but again, in the sense that if you're breathing into that sacral chakra area, you are tapping into your divine life force. And while I'm thinking about it, I would say I would challenge each of you to think about which chakra, I would say just probably one, which chakra feels really activating to you as far as where your soul is located. And this is a strange question, but I identify as a transmuter and a lover, which I'll cover in a moment. But for a long time, I have strongly felt my soul located in my sacral chakra. Can't explain it. That's just where I get super activated. Again, it has nothing necessarily to do with sexuality. It's literally just a physical location that I feel is the center of my being. Others might, legitimately feel it in the solar plexus, in that navel area, that's middle chakra. And maybe it's going to depend on your purpose. I would just be really curious to know. And some of you, even though if you don't identify as a teacher, you might feel very centered at your root. You might feel that's where your soul resides, at the base of your spine. And that would be very legitimate as well. Others of you might definitely feel that in the heart center. And that would, or any of the center. It would be very legitimate wherever. I'm just curious about that. For me, I have always said out loud and just felt that my soul is located right here in my sacral chakra. So I just think that's an interesting consideration to think about. The sacral chakra, either through sexual acts of pure love, or through the act of, growing and birthing a baby, or through meditation, that sacral chakra has the ability to create powerful activations that reverberate throughout the universe and have the power to awaken others. I believe that about all the chakras, but I don't know, for me, I especially feel it about the sacral because it is just the womb of the universe that is you. Okay? Now, the lover, of course, resides in the heart space. Okay? All love, as we have been talking about, starts with self-love. Okay? And when we develop a daily practice of self-love, we rise to our abilities. We rise to our purpose. And life becomes easy, right? Things can just manifest before our eyes. And, you may or may not know this, but the heart itself, the physical organ within your body, I believe in conjunction with the heart chakra, the heart has an electrical power that can be measured, and it can be palpably felt across a room or across the borders of nations. And I know this because I have done this. I've tested this with a certain person in another country. And it's astonishing, the power of the heart. So, of course, the heart as a chakra is supposed to be unlimited. It is infinite sound. I love that. So it's an infinite frequency, okay? It's the frequency of the universe, right? And, of course, the heart chakra is the seat of love, not just romantic love, but all-encompassing, unconditional love. And that is the purpose of the lover, is to create loving relationships without limit. All right, that all-encompassing, mind-blowing, unconditional love that you are, as a lover, are called to stand as a lighthouse for others. The throat chakra gives us purification. Remember, the throat is a place where air passes through. It is a place where food passes through. It is a place where the voice, sound, passes through. Okay? The throat chakra can give us balance in that sense. It is really a gateway between our visceral physical body and the ethereal visions, bringing them into 3D. So bringing something that only existed as thought into a three-dimensional existence as a spoken word or emotion expressed, that is the gate, that is what the throat chakra is to be a gateway for, giving voice to our thoughts and feelings. And so as such, the throat chakra is the transmuter, because here comes the transmuter to change one form of energy, which could be thought, or pain energy, okay, into light energy, changing thought into illuminating vocal, spoken word, sung words, right? Singing, music, or emotion. Okay, so crying, laughing. Here is the transmuter to guard the portal of the throat, to carry out this very sacred duty. All right, so the throat is a transmuter. It's a transformational gateway where breath and thoughts become words. Emotions become words. Where do emotions start? They don't really start in your head, right? They start in your visceral body. When we recognize and honor the power of our emotions, also very importantly, when we recognize and honor the power of our words, okay, before we think them and speak them, especially before we speak them, then we embrace the ability to change our reality. Never forget that. The transmuter does have a sacred duty to elevate energy. Okay, all of the purposes are elevating energy, except the teacher. Remember, we talked about this previously. It's really critical to remember that we want to embrace the ability, the honor of being able to change our reality and create a better world for ourselves and just everyone. Okay. Our third eye is our divine translator. The third eye represents knowledge, wisdom, awareness. Okay, and it is located right between your eyes. It is a center. If you press it, you can feel it activated. Okay, I'm very fond of having it pinned when I go to acupuncture. I like to get my third eye or my crown pinned. Have a needle put there, because for the third eye, it can really help me clarify, because I go into like a really deep meditation in acupuncture. So having my third eye, I call it pinned or needled, really helps me to focus on my third eye. Like, because it's not one that I or any of us normally walk around focusing on, right? You're probably consumed with how your solar plexus feels. You're probably consumed subconsciously with your root chakra, maybe feeling unbalanced or insecure about things, especially if you're having like money issues or relationship issues. Your root chakra, you can start becoming really aware of that. Or your sacral chakra, obviously people walk around being kind of aware of that for different reasons. Or even your throat chakra, or even your heart, but it's like the third eye and the crown, people don't normally walk around day to day being really aware of them. So I like to make a point of being aware of that especially in the clearing of acupuncture, in that meditation. So that is why the third eye really perfectly correlates with the translator, because the translator is here to create awareness, to open our awareness of messages that we were unable to understand. And that's exactly what needling my third eye does in acupuncture. Is like I don't normally focus on the messages coming in through that gateway, but that's exactly what it is. It's a powerful gateway for connecting with ourselves and connecting with our inner and our outer universe. Okay, and I'll say this: calcification of your pituitary gland. Okay, if you've heard of the pituitary gland, which is a very small part of your brain, becoming calcified, that is a real thing, and that can happen through toxins that you ingest. Fluoride is a big one. I have a whole other course where I talk about clearing away all that is not you, and I cover things like that. Definitely, if your third eye is being calcified or cluttered up, that can very much damage or block the powerful wisdom and intuitive abilities that we all have. Okay, don't Don't look around saying, oh, everybody else is intuitive and not me. You absolutely are, but you may have been blocking it through just ingesting toxins, all right? So practices such as clean eating, drinking a lot of clean water, meditation, Kundalini yoga, Reiki, acupuncture, acupressure can definitely strengthen our connection to our third eye chakra. And if you are a translator, if that is your purpose, then you obviously need to take supreme care of yourself and be a lighthouse to others as to how to do that as well. Our crown chakra is the source of creation. All right, it's located at the very top of your head. And you know what I find so interesting? You know, when newborns come into the world, there is a soft spot in the top of their head where their skull has not fused together. I believe it's called the fontanelle. I've always loved that word. I don't know why. And now I'm putting it together because why I loved that word. I learned it in college. It required biology I had to take for my therapy degree. I love that word, and now I know it's because newborns come into the world with their crown chakra wide open. Isn't that beautiful? So the crown chakra is your source of creation, your source of light. It is where you literally connect with your thread, with your column of light to God, to source, to the oneness, okay? It is our direct thread to the divine source, to love, to infinite wisdom and creation. All right, so that's where it all comes in. And if you've ever done acupuncture, this is one other reason I love to get my crown chakra needle. I wouldn't do both at the same time, crown and third eye. That'd be a little intense for me. But I love getting my crown chakra needled because I literally can feel all the bad energy, bad frequencies that I don't want, literally rush up and out of my crown. It's like if you popped a balloon, you're giving it an outlet, and that's what it feels like. It's so cool. The catalyst perfectly corresponds with the crown because it radiates the strongest influence. The catalyst is not, a godlike figure. Okay, they can be an idol of some sort, a leader. Not idol is not a good word, but a leader for many. And they're radiating a lot of influence. They're creating massive change. Their acceleration to our awakening lies in activating and keeping our crown chakra open. Okay? So those of you who are my catalysts out there know that, just like I say in the book, this is not a light responsibility. Okay? None of these purposes are. But because you are going to be radiating very strong influence over many, many people, you're going to be catalyzing massive change. You want to remain connected to God and nothing else. Okay? I'm not trying to get all religious, but there are too many catalysts in our history who have been connected to something other than God, and it has gone terribly wrong for all the people who trusted and followed them. So know that your responsibility is to stay pure, and it is to activate your crown in the most holy and good way possible. So our chakras tie into our frequencies, okay, as it happens. Each chakra has its own frequency, and our frequencies tie into our core life purpose, right? Remember Hawkins' map of consciousness, okay? So it kind of begs the question, are the life purposes connected to the ascending frequencies? All right, it's an interesting question. I would say yes, in a way. You can find great correlations here. So the teacher is doing what they're doing because they have shame, they have guilt, and these drive the way that they see the world. They're also apathetic to their potential. This is not to say all teachers are just constantly operating in those lower frequencies. That is not what I'm saying. Every human being, no matter what purpose you're practicing, you can operate, anytime in any of these frequencies. But somebody who is unintentional about their purpose, which is a teacher, typically is unintentional about it because they are still kind of spending some time down in those lower frequencies, okay? Now, the parent is not to say that a parent is low frequency, but I find it interesting to consider that the correlation of grief and parenting. Now, again, not necessarily talking about having kids, but as a person with the role of parent myself, I can tell you that there is grief. There is a huge grief and loss to ending the life that you knew to start a new life as a parent, right? Any of you parents out there who have children, you know what I'm talking about. There is also the potential grief that you consciously choose to accept by giving your heart so deeply to a child, okay, or to your following. If you are a parent as your life purpose, if that's what you claim as your purpose, it's because you just live and die for these people, whoever they are, okay? Your children, adopted children, your following, your clients, your fans, whatever it is, this is who you just live for. You live to nurture them. And also, the grief, this speaks to the grief that a heart goes through upon being born and upon going through the birth experience to be born to parents and forgetting its divine purpose. I'm talking about, an actual baby. That is a huge grief that we each go through and that we each spend a lifetime reconciling with and ascending back up the scale here to the light, all right? So the empowerer, I think this is interesting. The empowerer is often telling their story. The empowerer is often a coach or a mentor or a teacher of some kind, right? And they can be doing what they're doing out of fear and disappointment that they feel that they aren't made for more. And I'll say this, scorn and hate, you see those next above fear and disappointment, those are actually forms of love. And that's why they're so high on the list, okay? As opposed to, like, you think hate is like the worst frequency, right? No, that's passion. Hate and scorn are passion. Those are forms of love. They are mirrors of love, all right? So here's the positive side of this. We often start doing what we're doing as an empowerer because we feel so strongly, we scorn the way that things turned out for us earlier. And we want to help others avoid that. And that's very noble. So that's a way that the empowerer ties into, this section in the map of consciousness. And the colors are going to sort of run together at this point. And I made this map of consciousness chart, so as not to infringe on anybody's copywriting that made their own chart. So the colors, just kind of match up where they match up. But in terms of the colors of the purposes, the lover is, you got to remember that the lover embodies courage. They embody willingness. Okay, so they're scooping up, pulling some of these other frequencies in with them. The lover's job is acceptance of everyone. The lover's job is extreme empathy with boundaries, of course. The lover's job is to be in unconditional love and joy. So you're going to start seeing these upper ones, overlapping a little bit, right? And probably the lower ones too. I just explained them kind of specifically, but we lovers, okay, we carry a lot of emotions in one day, often at one time. That's really, really typical. The transmuter needs courage to know your truth. The transmuter needs willingness to speak your truth. And the transmuter needs acceptance and love for who you are. All right, and I'm telling you, as myself, also a transmuter, those things have been very much part of my journey and part of my everyday job as a transmuter. So I think that those things, correlate really well to the transmuter. The translator also needs courage. They need courage to dig in and go where others won't go, to hear the messages, to find the messages, to discern the messages. Sometimes the message can come in to you, a translator, and you could quake in your boots and be like, I don't think humanity is ready to hear this. Or I don't think the person I channeled this for is ready to hear this, right? So being a translator takes a significant amount of courage. Obviously, being any of the life purposes takes a significant amount of courage. Courage is higher on the scale. And for those of you, the three that I just named, the lover, the transmuter, the translator, you're going to have to live with fear, and you're going to have to overcome it every single day in order to live your purpose. That's it. The empowerer obviously can be a courageous person, but like I mentioned, they're really transmuting fear. They're not necessarily running around with, they're not necessarily wielding courage. They're wielding fear as a tool to tell their story, to change things for other people. So that's a little bit of the difference there. And then the catalyst is at peace with all the other purposes, because they're literally tapping into all of them. They are at peace with who they are, and they are at peace with who others are. They are mobilizing the troops. They are pushing forward. They are starting movements. It takes an extraordinary level of self-awareness and enlightenment, which leads to bliss, to be a catalyst, because this purpose is the culmination of all dreams and desires. You are catalyzing thousands or even millions to live their purpose. And this is not to say that you're going to spend every day in enlightenment, but it is something that you have to take very seriously and be able to reach that state, I believe, before you could truly make a daily practice of being a catalyst, and before you can make a career of being a catalyst. So something to think about. And I hope that this course is helping you get on your way to, learning some really concrete daily habits to reaching that joy, love, peace, and enlightenment and bliss. Now, remember, when I was talking about Hawkins' map of consciousness in a previous module, I was saying that we don't want to stay at any of the lower frequencies for an extended amount of time. It's obviously human nature and perfectly okay to cycle through any of these emotions, any of these frequencies. But when we're living in these lower ones, fear, disappointment, grief, apathy, shame, then that can lead to dysfunction. It can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to feeling very unstable, and just, undesirable behavior that reflects that. So, we don't want to stay in any of the lower frequencies for an extended amount of time with regards to frequency, but it is perfectly productive to remain at one purpose for part of, or even all of, our life, even if that is being a teacher, okay? You have many, many lives to live out, and you will progress naturally to your next purpose when you feel ready, whether that is in this lifetime or another lifetime. Doesn't matter. There's no judgment. It's not a race. Just let it happen naturally, okay? One reason for this is because the 7 core purposes are stepping stones on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Remember this? And it's true, too, that the chakras and what they represent can also be correlated with Maslow's pyramid as well. So I made this pyramid just really quickly, for an earlier lesson. I don't have it color-coded, but, suffice to say, you will be out of balance if your lower chakras are always calling the shots and influencing your behavior. And as a species, we don't want to all be stuck in the lower needs forever, in the physiological needs. Like, if you're just surviving and you're just constantly, your number one need is food and shelter. When we were primitive, when we lived in a cave, right? That's where we were. We needed food and shelter. We needed love. We needed to be safe from predators. We needed to belong to a clan, okay, which was really more about like safety. But, as we grew and evolved as a species, spiritual leaders came into our midst, and we learned more about love and belonging. We learned more about esteeming ourselves and self-actualization. Nowadays, we're all evolving rapidly, and this is partly what is meant by ascension, okay, and evolution of, our soul awareness. And in the same sense, we want to progress to practicing other purposes, even if the progression is not linear and you don't go straight from one to the next. that is okay, because that's the wheel of purpose. The truth of our existence is that we are each meant to practice all the purposes. This is the way we experience wholeness in ourselves, oneness with others, and become even closer to the truth of who we are. We were created to evolve. We were created to progress around the wheel of purpose. And I have it here as a spiral because, not just a circle, but a spiral. My daughter actually drew this logo for me, this image for me, when she was like 10. She's a really gifted digital artist. I have it represented as a spiral because that is an essential, pretty much the essential shape of life. That is the shape of evolution. That's why I don't have this in a circle. It is open. It is evolving, right? We were created to evolve, to progress around the wheel of purpose, to realize higher and higher consciousness, just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just like the arrangement of the chakras. That is the infinite web of human existence. We are all one, working and being in harmony. We are empowering each other to live in full authenticity and in our full awesome power as a species. If you find yourself currently operating, or that you feel that you have operated in this lifetime, several of these purposes, you might be very experienced at listening to your soul. Maybe you've come to this lifetime to complete the wheel and to level up to the next dimension of our species. All right, maybe you're going to take some souls, your energetic tribe, with you into that level, or maybe you've come to start all over just for the fun of it. Okay, and go, start at the teacher or one that you haven't done in a while and just do them all again, right? Who knows? You might practice just one purpose in your current lifetime and one in another, and so on. As you progress through lifetimes, you're clearing your karma. You're learning the lessons you prescribed for your soul at the beginning of time. You progress at your own pace through expressing the 7 core life purposes. And the process may not be linear. In fact, you might double back many times. And I realize that the basis of my philosophy that I'm describing right now is that we live multiple lives, is that our soul goes through many, many, many iterations, as I talked about in the first module, of being human. I believe our soul goes through iterations of other, type of beings as well, but that's tangential. We could be that you don't subscribe to that belief, and I completely honor that with all my heart. And in fact, I would be fascinated to talk with you about your take on this. Okay, my heart and my mind are always open, and while I believe what I believe, I'm also really interested to hear and really understand what others believe and how we can maybe fuse our beliefs if there's a way to do that. So you might practice just one purpose in your current lifetime and one in another, and so on. And as you progress through the lifetimes, I believe you're clearing your karma. You're learning the lessons that you prescribed for your soul at the beginning of time. Okay? And you're progressing at your own pace through expressing the 7 core life purposes. And the process might not be linear. It might not go in a straight line, like from teacher to parent to empower to lover. You might double back many times. Okay, for example, you might be a sage or a healer in one lifetime. Maybe you're translating messages. Maybe you're transmuting illness. And then in the next lifetime, maybe you're operating solely as a teacher. All right, maybe you're just simply triggering people into healing themselves or into understanding each other better. And who is to say which is the higher and more valuable purpose? Okay, nobody. The point is that your soul, your highest self, however you want to call it, gets to call the shots. You have free will. So whatever you feel would be the most interesting and helpful to the awakening of you and your humanity, that's what you get to do. Whatever expresses the truth of you in whatever ways you feel called to do, whatever is your happy place, okay? That's, again, how we discern and claim our current purpose. And know this, all right, even though for us humans, it can be a lot to wrap your head around practicing one or more of these purposes in one lifetime. There exists a highest, most evolved version of yourself that is effortlessly practicing all 7 of these purposes at once. And that is what I mean about the catalyst, or some of you who feel strongly called to 2 or even 3 purposes right now. For whatever reasons or whatever background you have, you may be more ascended right now and more self-aware. That's all that ascended means, just more self-aware, okay? You don't win a prize. In fact, if you're ascended, like it's hell. It's hell sometimes, right? Wow. Sometimes I wish I could go back to sleep. Oh my God. But for whatever reasons, whatever background you have, you may be more ascended, more awake and aware right now. That's why you feel called to more than one purpose. I'll say this though, okay? Those of you who identify strongly with just one purpose, it is not because you're not ascended. It's not because you're not evolved. It's not because you're inferior or less than anybody else. None of those things are true whatsoever. It's because that's what your soul needs right now to get to your next level. Okay? And as I said before, there's some of us who just cerebrally, the body and the mind that we were born into, we can only focus on one thing at a time, okay? Michael Phelps, was he an entrepreneur and a boxer and a bus driver and a swimmer? No, he was a swimmer. That's why he won so many medals. That's all he did. That's it, right? So if you are just being Michael Phelps about your purpose, God bless you. Thank you, okay? There's no comparing levels of ascension. That's ridiculous. It's not a ladder and it's not a race, okay? The 7 core life purposes is not a ladder and it's not a race. We are all on the ever-evolving wheel of purpose. You are exactly where you need to be right now. And that is exactly where your energetic tribe, which we'll talk about soon, that is where they need you to be, okay? So remember that, very important. Because it takes everyone being on their core purpose, living their core purpose to make the world work. All right, you've seen how integral each of them are to each other, right? What would we do without teachers? What would we do without empowerers? Empowerers run the world. What would we do without the translators to bring us the messages that the rest of us are too busy to hear and understand, right? It takes everyone living their purpose to make the world work and to complete the universe that we are all a part of. It takes all the colors to make a rainbow, because a rainbow is a refraction of light. It takes all the colors of the rainbow to make white light. It takes all 7 major tones of frequency to make a full musical scale. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then we start over again with A. And almost all Western music relies on that 7-note structure for every song. Now, obviously, you can start the song on a different note, a C or an F or an A sharp, A flat, whatever, and it just depends what key it's in. And, there are other tones, sharps and flats, besides the main 7 ones. And that gets into a study of a whole other math sequence. The Fibonacci sequence, the spiral, is all related so incredibly beautifully. And get this, what is the first tone of a scale called in Western music? It's called the root. Isn't that beautiful? The correlation. Now the root in music gives us reference. Without the root, we are just wandering around with no yang to our yin. Okay, we can wander around through all of the different notes and chord progressions, but if we don't have a place to come back to, if we don't have a reference, we have nothing. We don't have a complete piece of music. And so what am I getting at? The root is our teacher in music. Could this be any more clear? Could this be any more perfect? How perfect you are practicing your life purpose. It takes all the chakras to complete the universe that is you. Because you, your soul, your divine essence, are pure light. Remember? I believe this is why we have chakra centers and why they have different colors of the rainbow. You are a microcosm of the universe, of the all that is. And your first goal is to balance all the chakras in yourself, to balance your frequencies, to be in harmony with your soul. And I gave you a number of ways to do that in the last lesson. All right, your ultimate goal is to balance all the core life purposes, okay? But for now, focus on the one or two that you claim and absolutely own it. That is your one job. You have one job, right? You'll love that saying. You have one job, okay? You have one job, and that is to claim and freaking own your purpose, whether it's a double combination of 2 or even 3, whatever it is. I have a phrase I've been saying in my coaching since 2017. Own it, be it, rock it. Own your purpose, be 100% who you are, and rock it all the way to the final encore. I'll see you in the next lesson.